Hello everybody. So today I want to provide an update on Lantheus. I have not covered Lantheus since January 28 of 2024. So it's been more than 9 months since I have covered Lantheus, and of course when I covered it 9 months ago I liked it. I initiated a position. I was quite happy with that stock and the diversification that it provided, and I must say it's been doing quite well, because from January 29th, right, the next trading day after a video, until today as I record this video, the stock for me is up 114%. Year to date it's up 87%, so the stock has performed quite well, and I'm probably not the only one who's had that experience with this stock, because if you go back to, let's call it the past 10 years, right? They IPO'd in 2015, so we're going to run it up, say the past 10 years. If you look at the performance of Lantheus compared to the NASDAQ, we had a 35% versus a 18%. So this company is beginning to show a pattern of consistent outperformance of the NASDAQ, which is what I look for on this channel. Now, Lantheus is somewhat of a special company because they are the leader in radiopharmaceuticals, radiopharma, which is this kind of, I'm going to say, strange or odd, or like a form of drug that we really don't think about, us who are not, deep in the field of medicine. Most people understand biotech, understand, regular molecules, your ibuprofens, etc. Like, we understand regular pharma, then we get biotech, then genetics, right? We're more and more understanding genetics and DNA, CRISPR-Cas9. That gets the lion's share of a discussion. Radiopharma is still largely unknown, but it comes down to a highly regulated field where you're using radioactive isotopes, and this creates a moat for Lantheus, because, for example, these isotopes, they have different half-lives, and you need to have a very, very good distribution center to distribute the isotope within hours, sometimes if you're lucky days, of fabrication of isotopes, because otherwise it loses its effectiveness entirely. There's also very strict rule as to dosage and how much dosage you can have, right? You can't have an isotope with like a half-life of, say, 10 days. That would be too long. There would be too many regulatory requirements for these radio these scanning companies who have to dispose of a material, and they have to hold the material for 10 half-lives. There's an entire moat. There's a lot of complexity around delivering these quote-unquote radioactive injections, which is what they are, these radioactive isotopes. And so as a result of that, they've had quite of a blue ocean, and I'll get to the market share in a second. You'll see the market share is quite high for this company, especially for their blockbuster drug, and they've kind of had a blue ocean with little competition, although the competition is noticing Pylarify, and the competition is slowly coming for Pylarify. They've been able to hold their market share. So let's talk about the stock now that we have this background about what makes them special, which is really a story of a moat, because shipping radiopharmaceuticals is not easy. Producing them is not easy, and it's highly regulated. And so that means that it's tough for competition to come into that field. Only qualitative analysis, in my view, for Lantheus can give me conviction in investing in this stock. Now, remember, I bought this stock on the basis of valuation 9 months ago, when the enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth was under a 0.2. And so in my spreadsheet, that looks very attractive. Right now, a healthcare stock, like a traditional healthcare stock, traditional healthcare revolution, we're still talking about highly innovative companies, but traditional hypergrowth revolution in healthcare type stock right now, the only one I'm buying right now is Transmedics. Transmedics is still very cheap. This one is one that I'm holding for the long run because A, I got it cheaper, B, I don't want to pay capital gains, right? I want to hold that story for, say, the next 5 years at the very least, because you'll see they communicate a lot on the 2029 deadline. And there's also a lot of optionality in their future drugs. I could make a case that the stock is a good buy right now if one buys it on the optionality of a future drug. The market, in my view, does not bake in the potential of these future drugs, because you see it's a stock that's already cheap, trading at 4.5 times forward revenue. That's a cheap stock, still growing at 21%. it would still be, relatively cheap in my spreadsheet, this stock. It achieves a rule of 40. It's at 57. So if you add the EBITDA margin and the growth, you're getting a 57. It's a highly profitable company. Anyways, so what do they do? They're radiopharmaceutical. That's their expertise. Find, fight, and follow is kind of what they do right now. And they have two main products, but one product is really worth the discussion, which is Pylarify, which is 69% of their revenue per the last conference call comes from this product, which is called Pylarify, which I've listened to a few podcasts about Lantheus, and in one of these podcasts, a urologist was saying that this is the most significant innovation in how to treat prostate cancer in the past 30 years. And this is an example of, for example, what this radiopharmaceutical can do. So you can see you have the scan before Pylarify, and this is all you see of prostate cancer. And then you have a scan after Pylarify, and you can detect the tumors much better. Pylarify kind of lights up the tumor and allows the medical professionals to treat you better and, to save your life. Essentially, that's what this product does. I always quote Peter Diamandis, who would not spend 95% of their wealth in order to save their life from, an awful disease like cancer. So the product, the demand is built into that product, right? I assume that people want to get treated and they want to get treated right. And if it gets to that stage, that demand is right there. And they are the number one ultrasound enhancing agent in the US for their other product, Definity, which we're not going to talk about. But they are the most utilized PSMA PET imaging agent for Pylarify, and they have an enormous market share. And so this has been studied in many studies. They've done 300,000 scans in 48 states. They have diagnostic performance, clinical data, consistency of interpretation for the radiologist. It's a highly praised product, and it's a product that's really liked in that community. And I suggest, if you're interested in that, you look up some urologists' commentary about Pylarify, and you will see what they think. They like the product, and the sales don't lie. And I think this is important. Lantheus, is not a one-trick pony, but it is an innovative company that has a blockbuster drug. That blockbuster drug is Pylarify. It's kind of like AbbVie back in the day when they had Humira. AbbVie had Humira. It was their blockbuster drug. That's the one you really needed to analyze. The same here is true for Pylarify. I think that's the one we need to analyze right now. So Pylarify. Again, right, so the total revenue for a company was 394 million. Pylarify was 273 million, which means 69% of the revenue was Pylarify. Then they have Precision Diagnostic, which is Definity, which is their other product. That's 112 million of revenue, and it's growing faster, right? Precision Diagnostic is growing at 14% year over year, right? And then you have Pylarify, who's growing at 29% year over year. And then you have Strategic Partnership. They just had $8 million of revenue in Strategic Partnership, and this is the lumpy part of the revenue. Keep in mind, a lot of these pharma companies of this scale, these small to medium cap pharma companies, oftentimes all they have for us to analyze is the strategic partnership. This company comes with a lot of strategic partnerships, lots of future possible drugs in the pipeline, in addition to two cash cows that they have right there, which is Pylarify and Definity. These are their cash cows. But the business is still 2/3 the story of Pylarify, and so we may ask what's going on for Pylarify. So based on the latest conference call, Pylarify has a market share of roughly 65% in the 48 contiguous states of the United States. 65% market share, despite the competition, despite having 3 large competitors. Definitely, they have way less competition. Their market share is roughly 80%. So the future growth is what matters here, and they've been growing at a clip just above 20% for a while, 22% in this case, quarter of this year versus quarter of last year. They grew 22.5% this year. The question is, how is the growth going to be going forward over the long term? Well, we have some idea. We know that they're about to reach $1 billion in sales in 2024, which means if they have 69% market share, which means that the market right now is probably $1.5 billion. And so that market Total by 2029, they say that market is going to reach 3 billion by 2029. Of course, the American population is getting older. Unfortunately, more people are going to get prostate cancer and thus are going to need these scans. And so it's roughly a doubling from 1.5 billion to 3 billion, a doubling of the addressable market. And assuming they keep their market share, that would mean a doubling of Pylarify. And so a doubling in a 4-year period, is roughly about 20% growth, revenue growth, each year for the next 4 years. So this is a company that's going to double its revenue for Pylarify. When you consider so first of all, if this stock only had that, let's be clear, it's a good stock, but it wouldn't be a great stock if it only had that growth for Pylarify. What makes this stock, in my view, great and worthy of me holding for the longer time is that not only we get a good stock, but we also get a tremendous optionality with potentially over blockbuster drug, and we get that quote unquote for free as optionality for buying a product that is already a blockbuster, that is already making money, a company that already has earnings, already has EBITDA, already is established. And so I see that as a lower risk to get into quote unquote radiopharma. I guess I can't call it a biotech. I can't call it a genomic stock. This is not a genomic stock. This is not a biotech stock. This is a radiopharma stock, and there's essentially only one radiopharma stock, and it's the one. So let's continue with Radiopharma. And by the way, if you go to the Quarter app, there's one of the interviews of the vice president of isotope of Lantheus. Get the Quarter app and you type Lantheus and listen to that interview of the VP of isotopes and isotope strategy for Lantheus. I have rarely, if ever, heard someone that smart. Like I could not believe the delta between, say, the interviewer and that person. Like I could not believe someone like absolutely brilliant. You're talking physicist meets pharma executive / doctor / medical doctor. You're like putting both into one bucket. I want to get behind companies that are led by smart people. This is a company that is led by a smart person. If you have any doubt, I really recommend listen to the VP of isotope strategy for this company. Stunning details on this one. Anyways, let's talk about the optionality. The optionality is absolutely grand, and they're specialized in these radiopharma. There's not a lot of people doing that. So let's talk about the first optionality, which is a thing I haven't talked about yet, is not only do they have optionality in future diagnostic radiopharmaceuticals, but I think more importantly, some of these radiopharmaceuticals could actually serve as cures, as therapeutic, as curative treatment, curative approaches. That's what therapeutic means. And so they may also treat people in addition to help with a better diagnosis. So that's also part of that story. So let's talk about the first one, which is PNT 2002. PNT 2002, feel free to pause and look at that. It's about metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer. I'm just going to stick to the fact that they're in late stage, close to registration, point number one. And point number two, what the market in the US is between $5 and $10 billion. Between $5 and $10 billion by 2029 would be the addressable market of this late stage trial. That's point number one. Let's talk about this one drug, neuroendocrine tumors, PNT 2003. And so this one is close to registration filing. So this one is they're done with stage 3. They are registration filing. They're at that stage. Now, what is this one? It is for again, gastroenteropancreatic neuroendocrine tumors. So again, that has to do with some really tough situations, some really end of life diseases here. Anyways, it's because they are filing on this one, right, registration filing, this one could have a launch in 2026. And so 2026 is 14 months from now. 14 months from now, this one could launch. And look at the market in 2025. The potential market in 2025 would be 5 billion. And this one is also a therapeutic treatment. So these tumors, neuroendocrine tumors, most likely a very unfortunate circumstance, very sad disease, most likely, is something that they are going to treat. Oh gosh, I really wish my MD was here today. She's working today anyways. Okay, let me move on. Let me move on to the last one, which is Pylarify, which is neurology. The last one is neurology. So again, phase 3, right? Phase 3. So this is neurology. This is Alzheimer's drug. This is their Alzheimer's drug. What would be the size of their Alzheimer's drug? MK6240, NAV 4694. This is for a radiodiagnostic of Alzheimer's disease. Total addressable market is 1.5 billion. So they are going after opportunities that they will be able to monetize. And for neuroendocrine tumors, that's almost there. These Alzheimer ones are a little further out. The PNT 2002 is a little closer. And remember, that's the one with the biggest total addressable market of 5 billion to 10 billion. So adding it up, because after all, that's what we care, right? We want to have an investment where we do a 10x, right? That's what we care about. So before I go to the total addressable market, let me just re-emphasize the scale of Lantheus today. Lantheus today has 1.4 billion in trailing 12 month sales. That's the size of the company in terms of sales, 1.4 billion. They do that with one product that has 69% market share and another product that has 80% market share, right? Definity and Pylarify. And the rest is just breadcrumbs. The rest doesn't really matter. It's just some royalty fees, etc. So these are the two main products, especially Pylarify. So these products generate 1.4 billion in sales. These products are mostly in the USA. If you follow the VP of Isotopes, he's talking about the possibility of shipping the Alzheimer isotopes because they would have a longer half-life, so they could directly commercialize this one internationally. The reason why they're in the USA is because these drugs need to be produced very close to where they are consumed, because the half-life could be just hours, which means you can't ship it logistically around the world, or you would have to have a subsidiary somewhere else making it in a foreign country. So international expansion is a little harder. Nonetheless, what is the future? The future would be a more global company with partners internationally, or with shipping, if you can make these drugs have a longer half-life with better isotopes. That's point number one. And point number two, this is a company with a much bigger potentially total addressable market. We already know that Pylarify total addressable market should about 2x by 2029. So in 4 years, it should about 2x. Then PNT 2002, and all of those are their drugs on which they are close. That's 5 to 10 billion by 2029. PNT 2003, 5 billion by 2029. Alzheimer's, Radiopharma, the two last drugs I presented, 1.5 billion total addressable market by 2029. So adding it all up, by 2029, if all goes well, it's a big if, right? These trials are risky, but if all goes well, you could be looking at a company that has a total addressable market of between 14.5 and 19.5 billion. So potentially the market for this in 4 to 5 years could be 5x to 15x bigger addressable market of Lantheus. And of course, the question is, how much of that market will they capture? Will they be able to defend the 69 and 80% market share on the existing product? Will they be able to claim similar market share for these products? Well, I think it's a bet to be made, given that they are the leader in their field. It's a bet that I'm making. And so you could be looking at a company that at least is going to continue to outperform the way it has for the past 10 years. This stock has been a winner for the past 10 years, right? Let me go back to showing you this, 35% over the past 10 years. It looks to me like it has the potential to keep being a winner for the next 5, and I'm happy to own it. And of course, this is not financial advice. No investment advice, no financial advice today. Just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.